Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to PSB. And, well, what a Grand Prix that was around Monza. I'm
Ooh.
here with my good friend Alex, partner in crime here at PSB. And we're going to digest some of the moments which have happened in that Grand Prix. But firstly, let's just give a general overview of our opinion of Monza. Um,
Yeah,
as a Ferrari fan, I don't think I could have had a happier day with a Red Bull 1-2.
yeah. I think it turned out to be a good day for Ferrari, really. Compared to, well, it could have been a lot worse, but we'll get onto that shortly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a overall race, great battles throughout the grid, great midfield battles. We actually had a battle for the lead for about 16 laps, which is the most we've had all season for
It's
the battle for the lead.
it's a
Um,
terrible statistic, really, isn't it?
it really is, yeah.
No, it's the
But
longest any non-Red Bull drivers led uh, a race this season.
yeah, it's a
And
great stat, isn't it?
yeah, so technically that means Ferrari should be P2 in constructors. Fight me on it.
Yeah, they can still get it, can't they? They're ahead of us.
Sebastian Vettel once said winning a title is one thing, but winning it with Ferrari is another. And I feel like getting P2 with Ferrari is going to be another. To be honest with you, Alex,
That'd be quite an achievement, though,
it'll be
if they can
something
do it.
else. I will say
Yeah.
that, yes, but my word, I'm not even sure where to start with that.
Should we start with the start?
We should. I tell you what. Let's have a little cutaway to Weidberg Rosberg.
Hmm.
Yes, that race start. I'm.
Uh,
I mean, we had a Monza curse, we had a Rosberg curse, and clearly the Monza curse wasn't anything like the Rosberg curse.
no, it's too powerful. It's
Abs-
the
outrageous.
Rosso curse can't be beaten. Like
Yeah,
we did a video, I don't know if it's gone out yet about the curses in around this circuit. Has that video gone out yet? As we're
should have.
speaking,
Yeah, yeah,
should
yeah.
have done. Yeah. So check that one out. Check it out here.
Brother, we've still got Nico Rosberg on the screen.
Oh, click
And
Nico Rosberg's face right now for the
click his stretched forehead from this
yeah.
beautiful image I found on the internet from his
But
little selfie.
yeah, we talked about the Monza curse. Obviously, every race winner in the last 3 years has DNF'd the race after in Monza. And then Nico Rosberg goes and takes a selfie with the whole grid. Normally, he takes a selfie with a garage and then says good luck to whichever team he's taken out in front of.
Yeah,
This week, he took it on the top of the start lights where the podium is. Uh, and then underneath it said Forza Ferrari. At that point, all Ferrari fans, including Josh, probably held their hands to their face and thought, oh no, Nico, what have you done?
yeah.
But it turns out he didn't just curse. He just didn't curse Ferrari. He cursed the entire grid, including the man that DNF'd before we even got to the start of the race, Yuki Tsunoda.
Yes, the grid spot directly over his right shoulder, you can see is Yuki Tsunoda's starting position. So he laid his lovely little curse on that grid slot, as well
Mm,
as on the lights as well. Hence the
yeah,
reason why we ended up having to have a restart and a lovely little delay to it, not just to move Yuki's car, but to try and fix the lights. Nico, take a bow. Please just take a selfie with Max Verstappen so we can put it to rest at 10.
but what if he
Because
breaks the curse? What if Max is the man that can break? Because he broke the Monza curse.
I don't want to think about this because
He-
if he breaks a Rosberg curse, that's a whole other
no,
ballpark.
no one can stop him. No one can stop him at this point.
No one will be able to stop him.
But yeah,
Oh,
so obviously the start of the race we had the formation lap. Sainz was on pole. If you watch qualifying, Sainz was on pole, followed by Max, and then followed by Charles. Interestingly enough,
yes.
once again the qualifying with the 3 sets of tyres gave us a banging qualifying session. It needs
Yeah,
to be every
100%.
qualifying session from next year. If it's not, then I'm not. I don't know what FIA are doing really.
Yeah, we brought up
Um,
before a straw poll from Tomo F1 where over
mm,
70% of the fans didn't agree with it. And to those 70%, do you watch normal qualifying? Do you watch Max Verstappen get pole every weekend and sit happy knowing he's going to
yeah,
win?
yeah.
Is
And the two weekends that we've had those tyre compounds, Max hasn't got pole in either of them.
conspiracy? I think not.
Conspiracy
I think
confirmed.
not. I think not.
Uh, but yeah, so we had the aborted start after Yuki Tsunoda's engine went on strike. Before we even got to the start of the it literally just blew up, didn't it? It
Yeah.
just went kaput.
I'll tell you what,
Um,
right now, as we're recording, I'm absolutely terrified having a picture of Nico Rosberg on my screen. So I feel like we should swiftly move on before everything goes to hell. And to
yes.
talk about that Max and Carlos battle. My
Oh,
word, we were in for a treat, weren't we?
yeah. Carlos came to play this weekend. Like, obviously, there's rumors about Ferrari. There's about rumors about if he's going to be there next year, if he's going to be at Audi come 2026, where he's going to go on the grid. But I think he really cemented himself in that seat this weekend because over the weekend he had Charles's number, like
Yeah.
in terms of pace, and he was, I'd say, second fastest to Max over the weekend. Like
I'd
I
say
know that
that. Yeah.
The Ferrari was set up decently in the straight, and it had enough power out the corners to keep Max busy for 18 laps. But also off the start as well, Carlos really aggressive, got a great launch off the line. Max got a better one, I believe, but in the second phase, Carlos just pulled away and just pulled straight in front of him,
Yeah.
which meant that he covered Max off into the corner. And there wasn't actually any incidents into turn one, which I was quite
No.
surprised about. I thought
I
we were going to see like crashes and all, but no.
I was expecting the American goat Logie Sarge to destroy some bollards, let's say, going through turn one, but everyone was very well behaved.
Hmm,
But it didn't stay like that for the entire Grand Prix, as we'll get on to shortly.
no.
Hamilton fans, I'll
Yeah,
give
hold
you,
your breath.
yeah, hold your breath. We got a little
Yeah.
discussion there, but back onto Carlos' side, he put up an absolutely cracking fight, and inevitably it just led to that one little lockup, which caused
Yeah.
Max to maybe change his line a little bit and realize that if Carlos is going to start defending very aggressively for that turn one, turn two, that he would just have to put Carlos under so much pressure. You're driving in a red car, forward Tifosi, in front
Mm.
of a Tifosi, at home. There's not much more pressure you can ever get in Formula One. And
Yeah.
yeah, Carlos did very well to go for 14 laps in the lead, and that's something that he should cherish forever.
Oh yeah.
Having
Well, he just
that crowd just shout his name
yeah.
throughout the entire of the lap, listening to him going up into the Ascara chicane, holding on, doing the whoa until he ends up peering over the hill. It was absolutely incredible,
Oh
and
yeah.
I wouldn't have given it to be there. Yeah,
For
Ferrari fans for
Ferrari
win.
fans, yeah, Ferrari fans and Tifosi fans are the best in the sport, really. I
Yes.
think. But yeah, so the lock up into turn one was so he was doing a really good job. Max at one point tried to go all the way around his outside and actually cut Max backed out of the corner because they knew they weren't going to make it into turn one. That's a bit of a contentious point on certain fans, but we'll move on from it. Max coming over the radio and saying that was naughty. Actually, no. I think he specifically said that was a bit naughty. I think
Yes.
that's what he said in a weird voice. Which I think, to be fair, I think he said it more sarcastically because he knew he would have done the exact same thing if he was there in the lead for Carlos. But
Yeah. But
it's
you mentioned, right, we will have, I feel like we should address it with
oh
2021
no,
with Max hopping over sausage curb and parking himself on top of Lewis. I
yeah,
think that Carlos was racing Max just as hard as Lewis was back then,
yeah,
but I believe it shows that Max has matured, at least in his driving standards. We've had this
I th-
conversation about
yeah,
him not really being able to race wheel to wheel too well. He's got such a quick car that he doesn't necessarily need to. He just needs to wait and buy his time, and he'll get a position. But this week, kind of proved me wrong, and I say very humbly, in myself, that maybe there is a change in his attitude, knowing that he's got the fastest car. He's
yeah,
not fighting for a championship. He can take it a little easy. He can have a little banter over the radio, as he did with GP all weekend. Um, yeah,
yeah.
GP putting him in his place in qualifying, put a
Some
little
really
smile on
good
my
ones.
face. Yes,
Yeah.
but no, Max just showing he's matured, and I feel like when he reaches a full level of maturity, if he's still in the sport in that time,
Mm.
I'm terrified to what records won't be broken by him because
Yeah, well,
he's a machine.
yeah, I think people tend to think that Max and Lewis race each other differently to how Max races other people, which people can make
That's
that
yeah, that is
assumption, but it's not true really.
no,
It's
I disagree with you there, Alex. I think every driver races the other
oh
drivers
no,
differently
I think
to
so,
a
yeah,
complete degree, right? It's just the fact that the stakes were even higher. There was even more pressure, tension building between those two throughout that 21 season.
yeah.
That they would have done anything to one another to try and get a hand up, and
Also,
sometimes
why is
that's
that
just how it
sausage
is.
curb still there? Have we
I
not learnt that sausage curbs are a terrible idea? Well, this is a whole other conversation for another day,
yes,
but I feel like sausage curbs are awful ideas. That's another FI conversation. But yeah, so Sides defended well, and then he locked up into turn one. Didn't go wide across the curbs. He actually kept it into the corner, but he was basically compromised coming out of the left-hander. It gave Max a good launch, went all the way around the outside of the Curva Grande. But to be fair, Sainz held him up the inside, and they
he
were
was
like
trying.
wheel to wheel that way. And then just Max had the inside line for the corner and just swept into the lead, and we didn't see him. for the rest of the race because he
No,
just drove off
he
into the distance.
he just decided to call it a day. He got his money's worth. He's fine. He's
He was fine.
absolutely going. But
No,
as soon as he pulled alongside Carlos, that into the braking zone, that Red Bull is just in a league of its own.
it's
Especially,
superior, isn't it?
especially
Really?
compared to that Ferrari setup, which it had. It was just different. It was a different ballpark. As soon as
Yeah,
they pulled alongside each other, it was destined to happen. But Max is just going to send one down the inside, brake 10 meters later, and
yeah.
get the move
Not 10
done.
minutes later. That would have been a bit of a
To be fair, I reckon he could still pull it off in that Red Bull. He's an
yeah.
absolute weapon in it. But someone who perhaps isn't a weapon in that Red Bull
Oh,
is our dear friend Checo Sergio Perez.
I
And
was shouting at the TV. I
his
was.
his little kerfuffle with George Russell. I've never been more wound up by a radio message than him deliberately deciding to hop across those big long sausage curbs when he realised he couldn't make the corner. And then George realised he wasn't making the corner, so he did the same thing. And for Perez to go on the radio and immediately moan and accuse George of pushing him off when George bailed out later.
Well, George was going to make the corner, and Perez locks up going around the outside. Like, so if you haven't seen the race, every lap Perez was close to someone. He tried to go around the outside of turn one every single lap, and guess what? Every lap it didn't work.
He
But the
thought it
times he
was
went,
Max Verstappen,
yeah,
honestly.
but the times he went up the inside, guess what? He got the move done. So it's just it's like he didn't learn until like the radio like Hugh Bird, who's his engineer, came on the radio and said you can overtake him, Perez. Like
Yeah.
it took what lap did like I wrote down so bit of a behind the scenes magic here. I was writing down notes for every lap. What lap did actually Checo get past George? Like carry on talking, I'll find
I
out
don't
what it
know. It
is.
was it was a day late and a dollar short, to be honest with you. I don't really think George had the machinery to fight there, but
Lap
I
16.
yeah, I don't. I feel like it was down to Checo's reluctancy to pull off a move that I feel like 80% of the drivers on the grid would have tried. Regardless if the car's defending to the inside, you just back off at that point, you let them defend thin air, and you get the better exit. But Perez didn't want to. Perez wanted to pull off an overtake around the outside to show he can overtake people. And
But you just showed the opposite.
yeah, it just showed a poor lack of decision making, to say the least.
Well, also how early he was braking into the corner as well.
Yeah, he was
Like,
braking a good 10 meters, 15 meters before the Mercedes.
yeah,
And, understandable if he was in a Haas, but
yeah.
he's in a
We'll
Red
get
Bull.
on to them.
I don't think we will. They were nowhere, honestly. So some of the teams this week just
Oh, in our
nowhere.
driver ratings, it's going to be one hell of a time to review
Oh,
those.
dear Lord. But no, we've got Perez. I mean, questions need to seriously start being asked, and answers need to
Like,
start being given. Perez has come out and said that Verstappen's just invincible, which paints Verstappen in an even better light than it already does. But I can't picture the majority of the grid being in that car and still being in Perez's position. Because the way Perez is driving that car makes it look like it's not a complete clear shout for Constructors' Champion. And realistically, it is.
yeah. Well, okay, that's all right. I'll give him a positive. He did get up into second place. I was worried he wasn't even going to finish on the podium. Like, technically, he did put himself in the position that Red Bull want him to be in every weekend, but it took him far too long to get there.
Yep.
Like, the fact that he clearly didn't have the pace of Max, but if he's up in second place early and Max has the problems that he has later in the Grand Prix, there's nothing saying that Perez couldn't have got past him. I know Red Bull may have not let him pass, but what I'm saying is that he would have been there or thereabouts. So it's just one of those things then. And if he didn't get second, then that's even worse because the Rebel was so much faster than both those Ferraris and the Mercedes. The Mercedes, in terms of pace, was nowhere this weekend.
No.
And
Miracle. It was honestly a miracle they got fifth and sixth, in my
yeah,
opinion.
Russell did a fantastic job, and we'll get on to Hamilton in a minute. I think he
Yeah.
did an okay job, but it was not anything spectacular.
Yeah,
But
speaking of Hamilton, right, started on the hard tyre. Everyone
yeah,
else started on the medium tyre, which
yeah,
caused a few drivers to decide to try and go for a cheeky little undercut.
mm.
So,
It's very powerful, the
yeah,
undercut.
decided here. instead of actually depicting or explaining what an undercut is with some sort of image, I've just decided to go and get this absolutely beautiful liveried Red Bull Formula 3 car. Um, it's
I can't
gorgeous.
see it,
I know
but
you
I'm sure it
can't.
looks lovely.
It is, but it is beautiful. It's the blue one I was mentioning the other day,
I'll
but
look at it and say,
it
okay,
felt like we was watching the junior formulas because of how strong the undercut was. It felt like the F1 game, and
yeah,
it was so odd to see that because this undercut was so strong, it just put more emphasis on what Lewis was able to do on that hard tyre, where he was able to stretch it out long enough to be able to go on the mediums and come back and fight through, which
yeah. Like
very, very impressive.
they're very impressive. The mediums were like insane in terms of pace. Like the hards dropped off as I expected them to, and the mediums rather didn't. It was a really hot day in Monza, so I think people didn't really have any idea of where the tyres were going to go in terms of pressures and in terms of where. But yeah, he made his way. So once he pitched, he got past Alonso straight away. Then he caught up to the Lando Oscar Albon battle.
Yeah.
He went for the move on Oscar, went around the outside of the curva
I feel like
Grande.
we will hold that discussion for a little bit later. Um, but yeah, no, Hamilton had a really good race,
Really good
really good
race.
recovery to get back up into P4,
Yeah.
although there are a slight little speckles on some
On
of
a
the
other an otherwise very good weekend.
yes,
Apart from his qualifying again, which does need to improve.
yes, but
Yeah.
I'm convinced something's wrong with that Mercedes when it comes to qualifying because there's always one driver which isn't able to get it into the window.
Yeah, Russell can't seem to get it into the window either
Yeah,
sometimes.
and then Russell gets in, Hamilton can't. Hamilton gets in, Russell can't. There's something
Yeah.
fundamentally wrong with the way they're doing their setups. But
Hmm.
end of the day, we're not F1 engineers, so we're never going to be able
No.
to tell.
That's why we're sitting here.
Exactly, but someone who might as well have been his own engineer was Alex Albon in that Williams, making it literally on screen as a real representation to how wide that Williams car was. Because oh
Yeah.
my word, how
Williams
he was
posted that
able.
on their Instagram, if you're
Yes,
using the same image I'm thinking
yes, you
of.
are. Yeah,
Yeah.
being able to hold up the McLarens in a car which he described as not quick in a post race interview, to be very generous,
No.
was
He said it to
yeah,
Charles, didn't he? He said Charles asked where he finished and Albon said 7. He said, "Oh, that's good. Were you fast?" He said, "No, not at all." And
yeah,
just like, to be fair, you could tell that he was 20 seconds behind Russell for like most of that race.
yeah,
Um, and then obviously when he got dropped by Lewis after Lewis overtook him, he couldn't really keep up with him. But I think there was brake problems with Albon's car.
yeah.
Like I don't exactly what happened. Oh, my camera stopped. That's fine.
Oh dear. I
We'll get
feel
it back.
like there was a lot of brake issues, not just with your camera, but throughout
No.
the entire weekend. It was so hot. The cars, they say Montreal's a brake killer because of the amount of hard braking zones.
Hmm.
Monza's a very similar thing. There was a lot of hard braking zones. There's very
Yeah.
little respite. The best chance they've got is to try and divert some of the air back into the brake duct to cool it down a bit. But of course, you do that, you add drag to your car, you slow on the straight, which isn't what any driver wants around Monza.
And it
Um,
certainly wasn't what Albon was. He was not slow on the
no,
straight.
he was quick enough on the straight to be able to keep the McLarens behind, which is no easy task.
Yeah.
But to be quite
And he
honest,
defended well into turn
he
one
did,
as
he
well.
did.
Like,
He didn't just defend thin air.
no, he didn't. He did a really good job. And I think it shows again, like when that Williams is in a window, it's really good, like genuinely good. And obviously, I know Sargent isn't really showing it at the moment. He finished what 11th in the end, did he? I think it
Yeah,
was
it was
around 11th, 12th.
so close to
It's
points.
so close to points. He was actually running 10th for a while, and
I
then bloody Bottas got past him. Honestly,
I could hear the good bald American eagle squealing in my ear
yeah,
when I saw him in P10. But
he's going to do it for America.
the Finnish demon, who's soon to retire when Porsche wins that F2 title,
Yeah,
it came storming past.
to get a well-deserved point.
Yeah, which was an absolute miracle for Alfa Romeo. Again,
Yeah,
another team which was nowhere. It's
yeah.
absolutely
It was
bewildering.
weird. But yeah, so Albon, defended basically
Yes.
the McLaren pair for the entire race. One of the McLarens disappeared suddenly during that battle, but I don't know what happened
Yes.
there. And then
Yeah.
Hamilton blasted past him, and unfortunately, he couldn't keep up with Hamilton's pace. So
I mean, just in case you're a little bit unaware of what happened, I'll real quickly pull up the image to show you what happened to one of those McLaren drivers. It was Oscar Piastri, and
yes,
despite the image looking like Hamilton's going sideways and Oscar's just hit him, it was the complete opposite. Lewis
yeah,
turned over, squeezed Piastri a little too much. I watched a Skypad's little talk they did, about
Hmm.
it with Anthony Davidson,
Yep.
and the amount they dodged around it being Lewis's fault was remarkable. He said one time Piastri had a little more space on the right hand side, but even if he did it, they were still going to make contact.
No, he didn't. Did he? Let's be honest. It's
No,
British bias at its
he had
finest.
a quarter of a wheel's gap to the outside of a track.
And
I do agree with him. Even if Piastri took that, Hamilton's still cutting across him and breaking his wing.
yeah,
But for a seven-time world champion on a rookie, you would have thought he would have maybe given a little tiny bit more space. Despite
yeah,
how good Oscar's been, he's still a rookie at
yeah.
the end of the day.
Like, and obviously, let's mention that before the Hamilton fans get on our backs, Hamilton did come out and say on the radio straight away that I didn't leave him room, and then he apologized for it after the race.
Yes, it was nice. It was a
It was nice.
nice bit of honesty, which
Uh,
I feel like we don't see enough in F1.
Oh no, not at
Immediately
all.
after the Grand Prix, there's a great onboard shot from Piastri's car. Hamilton gets out immediately and goes straight over to his car to say sorry to Oscar. But
Yeah,
again, just is sorry enough. Is sorry really enough because Oscar again was really showing his pace. He was
yeah, he
right
was.
up there with Lando
Yeah,
constantly. Honestly, I reckon towards the end of the race, they probably would have swapped the McLaren drivers to give Oscar a shot. And
trying to get Albon.
yeah,
Yeah,
and the way Lando was putting so much pressure on Albon, Lando's tires were being cooked, Albon's tires were being cooked, and I reckon Lando could, Oscar could have got
Oscar.
him and
He would
probably
have had a
held him
go at
up
him.
enough. Yeah, probably held him
Yeah,
up enough to try and get Lando past as well. But
exactly.
it's really unfortunate again for Oscar.
Yeah.
He always seems to find himself in these horrible situations, which aren't any of his fault.
No, and like I saw some people comparing the the Hamilton Oscar incident to the Hamilton Leclerc one from 2019, where Leclerc like pushes him onto the grass. But the difference between that one and this one is Charles doesn't actually hit Lewis, where Lewis actually does hit Oscar on this occasion, and
Yeah,
it's a different incident. Like, and I think
incident.
Leclerc got incident. Leclerc got a black flag for it, didn't he? Not black flag. He got
A
a black
black
and
flag.
white flag. Yeah, he got a black and
He
white
got a
flag.
warning. He got a warning
So he got
for
a
it.
warning for it. And I think it's one of those things where if Lewis had done the same thing Charles did and pushed him wide, not breaking anything, Lewis probably would have got a black and white flag, not a penalty.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it would have been the other way around. But it's the fact that Lewis broke his front wing and pushed him a bit wide is why. Also,
Right. I don't like the terminology used there. Broke his front wing because
well,
I've seen
damaged
arguments.
his front wing.
I've seen arguments on Twitter about
I'm sure you.
well why are we now adjusting that because a car got damaged and had to pit? That's
Oh
part of
yeah,
the penalty.
that's true.
No,
Yeah,
there was a collision. Even if it was wheel to wheel, doing that there
it's a collision.
is not
Yeah.
safe. It's a collision going into a braking zone, which Lewis is moving in, which is against the rules. Firstly,
Mm-hmm.
secondly, causing a collision there. It's a slam dunk penalty. If any Lewis fan wants to argue this, please feel free to contact the business email. We'll set up a Teams meeting, and I'll have a
We'll go over it.
educated
Yeah,
conversation on this one. And we could pull up
but
the FIA rulebook, which is something you guys are desperately scrambling about for at the minute. But it's again, Oscar completely he had his car there. He's not
yeah,
obliged to go onto the grass like Lewis did against Charles. Personally, as a rookie, I wouldn't expect him to try and do such a ballsy move, knowing the risks there. And probably would have expected Lewis to give him a little bit more room.
yeah.
It again comes down to one of those
It,
things where it's why
it
is
can
Lewis
happen.
racing this rookie so hard?
Yeah,
He's
they
right.
raced me so hard.
Yeah, he was racing him like
Yeah,
this was for a race win, when realistically it was for a P6. He was on
yeah.
fresher tyres. The McLaren's tyres were bloodshot. They were gone. Like, it's horrible. It's
It's one of those
unfortunate.
things that happen, but it's a shame for Oscar. He'll recover from it fine.
Yes,
McLaren weren't having their strongest weekend because they just got no speed in a straight line. I think they're gonna have a good one in Singapore though. I think Singapore is gonna be a good track for them. Um,
I hope so. But
it
that McLaren's been a mystery. They don't even know where it's going to
Yeah,
be quick, do they?
it's odd. It's very odd. But yeah, let's talk about. So it's more positive news.
Yes,
From that, let's talk about Liam Lawson. Now we've already made a video that you may have watched about Liam
I
Lawson's
hope you have.
debut at Zandvoort. If you haven't watched it, it's click click Liam Lawson's face, which is on screen right now.
Yes.
Yep, so click his face. But yeah,
Now,
what an actual full blown debut this was.
I'll tell
this
you what.
weekend.
I've deliberately chosen this picture of where he was testing the Red Bull with Max's number one behind him. This I don't want to say this could be a reality, but if Max steps away from F1 in the coming years, I would
It
like
could
to
be.
see Liam in a Red Bull
Yeah.
because my word, has he been impressive. Now he's beaten Sonoda in both races.
Yes.
Absolutely smashed him this weekend, through and through in the race.
In fact, qualifying, he was
Sonoda had
zero
literally
pace.
zero pace in that race.
Zero pace. He
Absolutely
was
none.
nowhere.
Might as well just not
Yeah.
started, to be honest. Lawson absolutely
Honestly.
bodied him.
I didn't see Sonoda once.
No,
I saw Lawson like loads of times.
no,
But
no.
yeah, no, like so the thing with Lawson, the couple of things that really impressed me this weekend. First of all, getting out of Q1 into
Yes,
Q2 on the hards, very impressive. Then Q2 almost out qualifying Sonoda on the medium tires. I think he missed out by a tenth
10th.
or less than a
What? It was
tenth.
0.13.
Yeah, like incredibly close to outqualifying Snowder, and obviously we know what happened to Snowder at the race. We're just having a Josh with you anyway. He's Josh. But yeah, race wise, he was running near the points for most of the race. Made a beautiful move on one of the Haas cars. Don't know which one it was, and clearly,
It
yeah,
doesn't
that
matter.
Haas wasn't
It doesn't
Haas
matter.
fast for us, but it was brilliant. Like late braking into turn one, up the inside, brilliant. That's the move you want to make as a rookie driver to make yourself in here.
It was.
And
I don't want to say it, but it gave shades of early Daniel Ricciardo when he was in the
oh,
Toro Rosso.
it
I
did,
I
yeah, didn't
saw
it?
it and I looked at it and I was like, if Red Bull do not put this man in a car, someone's gonna grab him, and it'll be a horrible situation, just like Alpine
Yeah,
and Piastri. Because that man, not only is he driven the wheels off the F2, Super Formula, DTM, and now F1, he's absolutely rinsing
he
whatever
has to
machine,
stay.
whatever
Yeah,
vehicle he's put in. You can put him in an aircraft and he'll still set a pretty good lap time.
yeah,
He's
he has to
rinsing
stay in that car.
he's rinsing everything. And now, of course, you've got Christian Horner coming out. Ricardo might not be ready for Singapore. They've ruled him out of Singapore already, saying he might not be ready for Japan as well. When, you know, Lawson now really has a serious opportunity to
Yeah,
embed himself in the AlphaTauri team and
yeah.
really mount a challenge on Yuki.
If he can beat Snowder in the next two races and maybe pick up a point,
Yes.
I could see maybe a point coming in Japan. I think Singapore's going to be a tough weekend for them. But I think Japan, there's a real chance because like rain incidents, Japan, anything could happen. I suppose Singapore is the same. Like if it's a massive chaotic race and he can
Well,
pick his way through the pack,
I
then you
mean,
never know.
I feel like we're
But
gonna have to see with Singapore the new track layout. We'll get a good
oh
idea from practice
God,
one, won't we?
yeah, we
But
need to talk about that later. But
uh,
also, do not want to talk about that. But that's a week away, so we've got a week
yes,
of content coming out for you.
yes.
How nice of us
Aren't you in for a
to do that.
treat?
Aren't you into a treat?
Fingers crossed. Hopefully, like Liam Lawson is when he gets given this AlphaTauri seat
Yes,
full time to really
but
try and develop and hone his bones.
let's move on from Liam Lawson and
I
talk
don't want to.
about
No,
my favorite part of the race.
no,
And it may have not been Josh. If
no.
this was a Doctor Who episode, this is where Josh would be hiding behind the sofa, terrified of the monster on screen. And the monster on this occasion was his favorite team, Ferrari, who, as I wrote in my notes, tried their best to Ferrari it up at the last couple of laps of the Italian Grand Prix. Now, Josh, you remember this fondly. What exactly happened with Charles and Sainz towards the end of the Italian Grand Prix?
So, as you guys can see on screen, there was a incident where uh, uh, they were allowed to race. Now, as much as I was for them having a race in Monza and
Yeah,
providing a bit of entertainment, there's, you know,
there's a limit.
having a jovial race. Then there's what they did in Austria, where Leclerc was leading and told to hold position, and Sainz completely obeyed it. And then Ferrari come across the radio and go, "Okay, Charles, take it easy, get the cars home, don't do anything stupid."
And he sends one up the
Leclerc
inside.
proceeds to start swerving around like Max Verstappen, Baku sort of style, swerving in left, right, left, right, left, right. And then all of a sudden he realised Carlos was braking and had to slam on the brakes, pointing away from the corner. And I feel like we were very fortunate not to see both Ferraris end up getting in a tangle and DNF in there, because my word, you can see here from the angle of the picture, if
It
they
was
ended
so
up
close.
colliding, Leclerc's going straight over the back of that rear tyre and going airborne. So it's very, very fortunate they didn't connect. And I squealed like a wee little bitch when
Yeah.
it happened.
But it
No,
wasn't just that as well. Like they battled into turn two, and they
yes,
both went off wide there. They battled into turn one a couple of laps before that when the radio came on and basically Xavi told him, "Bring the cars home. You can battle, but bring it home." And he proceeds to dive up the inside of Carlos, who then they both run wide across the curb, and Carlos still leads. And then the lap later is the image that you showed on screen of Charles almost going straight into the back. I honestly thought that they'd hit each other. And I wrote down in my notes Charles hits Carlos because I thought it was going to happen.
I,
Um, and it was close. And also they were so close to the parabolica as well. Like they were almost wheel to wheel across the line in parabolica. And I thought Charles had binned it because
I've
I thought he dropped it in the corner, but he didn't.
yeah, no, so close. I feel like
Ca-
what really solidified that for me, when they crossed the finish line, they didn't drive in formation until they got through Lesmo 2, which says to me Leclerc really wanted that position. He
Yeah,
thought as number one at Ferrari, he would just be given the
he
podium
would
at
get it.
Monza.
Yeah,
And realistically, Sainz was bodying him all weekend.
he didn't deserve it this weekend. He
No.
didn't deserve to be
As much
third.
as a Leclerc fanboy that I am,
Yeah,
and how I feel like he will be the saviour of Ferrari one day, that weekend wasn't the weekend for him. It was Sainz's
no,
weekend. Sainz was on the pace, you know, really showing why the likes of Audi want to try and get him on board when he's able
yeah,
to drive like that, make very few mistakes. Admittedly, the mistake he did make cost him the race lead, but
but I think he would have lost it
I
anyway.
feel like that was more inevitable than not. But when you just
Like,
let him
because Max would
race,
have undercut him, right? I think that's what he would have done.
yeah, when you just let him race like this, it becomes such a, oh, it becomes such a problem sometimes, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
absolutely outrageous.
And I think it once again showed how much quality Carlos does have in all areas of his game, not just attacking, not just defending.
Yeah,
Like, I think that Ferrari obviously ate up its tires, like ridiculously ate up its tires. But hopefully they can iron that out for 2024.
yeah,
And if Carlos stays next year, which again, there's still not guaranteed that he does, but if I was Ferrari, I'd sign him on for another couple of years until he goes to Audi.
absolutely.
Um,
2026 minimum.
yeah, but I think you got two drivers there that have the ability to battle Max if Ferrari can give him a car to do so. But they just need a car to do so. And I think Carlos needs to be more consistent like this at weekends. Like
Yes,
if he's like this every weekend, then that's brilliant. But I think it was, I think the track suited the Ferrari car this weekend, and B, the fact it was Monza, both Ferrari drivers wanted to put on a show to show that they, like they didn't want the same thing that happened in Zandvoort. They
no.
didn't want that at all. Like they wanted to make sure that it was going to be good. I think Singapore is going to be a real tough weekend for them. Like, I think they're going to really struggle around
I
that
think
circuit.
that's where Aston's going to jump back up in the
Oh, I
championship on
think,
him,
yeah,
depending
because
on Stroll and whether he decides to wake up for the race.
yes, I didn't know Stroll was actually racing.
He might
Apparently,
as well have not.
he might have not, might as well
It
not been.
sounds really harsh, but Lord knows what's happening with Lance. Because at the minute, it's
Like, you can say
where
he
is
didn't
he?
get any track time this weekend, but like, he wasn't anywhere. Like, we'll talk about that more in the driver ratings. That'll be
Yeah,
another video that
that'll be
comes
a
out.
video later down the line.
But
But
yeah, no, it was
Monza
just
delivered, and I'm just grateful Ferrari they allowed
five
him to
stars.
battle. 5 stars for me.
I've got to be 5 stars. Yeah, I think
Five
so.
stars. Dare I say it was better than Zandvoort? Absolutely, it was more
I think in
controlled.
terms of a structured race, it was better than Zandvoort. I think
For
Zandvoort was the more chaotic
I feel
race,
like
but
for a race, Monza was better. For a spectacle, Zandvoort was better. I
yeah,
feel like that's how I'm gonna
that's how.
justify rating Zandvoort 4.5 and Monza
Yeah,
5. Not just because I'm a Ferrari fanboy.
not
Maybe,
at all. No.
maybe, but no.
What are you going to rate Singapore if it's a banging race, but Ferrari finished 16th and 17th
0.
respectively?
It's Singapore. They got rid of a sling. It's not my Singapore.
No,
Not my Singapore. But
that's not my
only time
Singapore.
will tell how good that race is going to be, because
Yes.
that'll be in over a week's time.
Yeah, not this weekend. It's next weekend. But then we got a double header, so we got Singapore
Yes.
and then Japan.
I'll tell you what. Maybe a little food for thought, but I feel like we could have a go on that new Singapore. I heard the F1 game may or may not have had an update. It'd be very interesting to see who's better around there.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe a little challenge video coming down the line.
Maybe a challenge video.
Until next time, thank you very much for watching. I've been Josh. It's been Alex. I've been heartbroken. Alex is smiling with a 1-2. How much more could you want?
Another Ferrari 1-2 turns into a Red Bull 1-2.
It was never a Ferrari 1-2, okay? We
Sorry,
tried.
another Ferrari pole turns into another Red Bull win. How many
Shut up.
actually has happened?
I don't want to know. Max has broke record with 10 wins. Red Bull's
Also,
got the most constructor wins in a
yeah,
season.
that's 15 in a row for Red Bull, by the way.
I don't want
Wins.
to know. No, silence.
From
silence. Interlagos, Russell's winning again. Silence. Zip.
zippity doodah. Yeah, if they had actually got the setup right that day, then Red Bull would be 16 in a row.
I don't want to think about it. But thankfully, I won't have to think about it until the next recording session here for PSP. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, I didn't upset too many Hamilton fans. But until next time, thank you very much for watching. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.